Hey Daniel, how you doing as well? Hey YouTube, should we get this started? Awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to Cardano for Climate's Wednesday meetup. Today is January 17th, and we have these weekly calls every Wednesday, and along with some additional calls on Monday, Tuesdays, and Fridays. Today on our agenda, we had a brief check-in. We're gonna have a C4C brief history from Melanie. We're also gonna have some C4C updates and announcements. Then we're gonna go into the playground, what is our new 30-minute session where we have community members come join us and present. And Grace is gonna be running a C4C Smart Goals session, and we'll do a checkout. And Melanie, you wanted to take this slide from here?
And hopefully I can follow through. I don't have two monitors, so I'm trying to do this from memory. First of all, most of us came to Cardano because of the mission to make the world work better for all. We also, for myself personally, I remember watching a whiteboard where Charles talks about Africa, his vision for Africa, and banking the unbanked. Next slide. Many of us met in Project Catalyst, which creates it's a innovation fund, which creates the environment. Next slide, Cole. A safe and lively environment for us to explore the potential in human collaboration. And as a gardener, a farmer, we need to have the right environment to thrive and to grow. Next slide, please. What began as a challenge, an actual challenge in Fund 6 has grown into a community. Next slide. This challenge asks the question, climate change is humanity's greatest challenge going forward. How will Cardano contribute to solving this wicked problem? Next slide, please. And then how will Cardano for climate contribute to solving this wicked problem? Sorry, I'm really nervous. I should have taken some GABA before. Next slide, please. Going from my memory. I watched this video a couple days ago, really great channel on YouTube, lots of different options for solving climate change. And I think sometimes we forget and we kind of get busy doing other stuff. And I just wanted to remind people that this is why we came together, the underlying reasons. And, this guy goes into different reports. It's not looking good. There's some extreme, in order for us to keep what we have currently, we have to do some extreme things that probably won't happen. So I think that we're going to probably be looking at more mitigating the damages done by climate change if these results. And again, these are reports based on certain criteria. The predictions, there's no guarantee that this is actually what's going to happen. So anyways, just go ahead and play that
Potsdam
recording.
and Washington Post analysis can only be as good as the information it's based on at the end of the day, though. These things are only models of possible future scenarios, of course, and there's plenty of debate about the accuracy and validity of predicting the future in this way. But the science of climate change is clear and unequivocal, and we're already seeing some of the consequences of our warming atmosphere in extreme weather events all over the world. So regardless of the accuracy of our predictions, there's no doubt that our future way of life is in our hands, and the choices we make now will have profound consequences for all of us in the coming decades.
And the point that I wanted to make with this was that he pointed out a book that was written in the 80s, when people were predicting things and action should have been taken in the 80s. That's 40 years ago. We can wait and we can blame it on somebody else, but I think we do really recognize the other thing that came up in our challenge is this comment that we are who we've been waiting for. Nobody else is coming to rescue us. We are the people that will make the change and make the difference going forward. Nobody else is going to solve this for us. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but it was something that was, really on my heart this last few days as we go through our goals. And just wanted to remind us where we came from. And yeah, I think the rest is up to you, Cole.
Yeah, no, I think that was a great addition. Thanks for adding that, Melanie.
Potsdam and Washington Post.
Sorry. Yeah, so Cardano for Climate is making the world work better for all people, animals, and the planet. And we're a strong group of individuals from all across the globe and working together to help fight climate change while using Cardano. And then we'll skip this video just because we went over it last week, but this is just kind of a C4C overview of why we're here. And then we've changed up the process of how we work through C4C, and we're doing a 2-week sprint process where it's followed by the moon. And every Tuesday we have sprint planning meetings, and anyone's welcome to come join if you'd like to take a role or help with any planning throughout the rest of the year. And then also every Wednesday meetup, we've changed the format quite a bit, where we have 3 different sections, where we'll have introductions for the first 15 minutes, a nice 30-minute presentation from community members, and then also breakout rooms for the additional last 15 to 30 minutes, what is guided by whoever shows up. And today, we don't really have any breakout rooms planned, but we can kind of figure out what we want to speak about when that time comes. And then another thing we're going to start doing is impact onboarding. This was a project that was funded in Fund 8 through Project Catalyst, and it had been pushed back a little bit, but we finally have created all the resources for impact onboarding. And the goal of this is to invite new friends or new community members to the Cardano for Climate weekly meetups. And we'll have a 30-minute session in a breakout room each week, where we'll be breaking down what Cardano is, what Catalyst is, and all the impact ecosystem, communities within the Cardano ecosystem. And this will be in both Spanish and English, and is ran by Daniel from Matera and myself, and also anyone else who wants to get involved.
When is that? That didn't have a day.
So that's going to be starting next week, but they're going to be during these Wednesday sessions. We're just going to take kind of a breakout room to help onboard anyone who's new and kind of wants to get all the kind of newish details on like just how to get involved and like kind of next steps from kind of their first session within C4C. And then now I think we have Grace. If you're ready to do the C4C SMART goals, we'd love to have you.
Great. So I guess the first thing, I actually want to see the other slide first, and then this slide. Okay, so we started talking about what are we doing for 2023, and we did a really good review of what we were good at. And also, it turns out that over time, Newman has been taking notes fastidiously and writing down the things that people say that they want to accomplish. And we'll see that in a minute. But as we're setting the goals, there's something like the categories in which we want to set the goals. And then there's something like, how do we set them as specific, right? And so this is what a SMART goal is. It's specific, it's measurable, it's actionable, it's realistic, and it's time bound. So we might say something like, we'd like to onboard 100 new people to Cardano by the end of the year. And then maybe each quarter we'd say 25 people this quarter, 25 people next quarter. We'd also have to say, what do we mean onboard? Does it mean they come to this meeting? Does it mean they have a Cardano wallet? Does it mean they have an NFT? So we'd have to define what we mean when we say onboard in order for this to be specific and measurable. And then actionable means we can do something about it, which means, okay, maybe we invite a friend, maybe we steal people from Cosmos, that kind of thing. So actionable, we know what actions to take, and realistic. Okay, maybe we shouldn't say we want to onboard 1,000 people or 10,000 people. It's not realistic. So those are how we want to set goals. And I actually looked at last year's, sorry, I'm just going to quiet this. I looked at last year, so it was a report that this group put out, and everything that was written there was accomplished, which was quite impressive. And it gives you a sense that all we got to do is set out our goals, because this is a group that achieves things that it says it's going to achieve. So the previous slide, which I'm going to, so I just want to ask if there's any questions about this first, before I go to the previous slide. Okay. And I just also want to point out, this is easy to find online. I mean, this isn't my invention or anything. If you look up SMART goals online, you'll find it. And of course, this is good for yourself. Here we are in January. We're all setting our goals for the year. So for yourself and your teams, you may notice that there's some of these areas are better, you're better at worse at as a person. Like some people aren't as realistic, some people aren't as specific, some people, you know, so you want to look where you are and where your team is and bring this to your teams and your projects as well. Now, of course, if you're coming in here to present your projects, you can show us your SMART goals, because that helps this group as a whole understand, what are we doing together? Okay, so we went back here to the next previous slide, and I had everybody in the leadership group say, like, why are you here? And there was a number of things, but we basically said there were three main areas. One is community building, one is Cardano advocacy, and one is the social environmental impact, okay? And we took all of the collected sticky notes from the previous year and from previous conversations, and we put them in here to see where they were. Now, it looks like a third, which is interesting. But if we zoom in, I don't know where the mirror link, if you could give the mirror link, it'd be great. There is
does
quite
someone
a bit.
have that mirror link by chance?
Yeah.
I'll drop it in the chat.
Thank
Yep,
you,
it's in the chat. Just scroll up, sprint plan. Oh no, actually it's the presentation on Wednesday sign up sheet. The title of it is C4C in 2023.
So yeah, so maybe just have everybody take a moment to look at that. You're not going to see it well on the slide, so you may want to look at that on the mirror board. Just take a look at those goals, and you'll see there's some overlap and there's some new things. And of course, the notes just say how often it came up in a meeting, not how important it was to anybody. Okay.
Yeah, that
Oops,
link's
here we're
not
seeing somebody
working.
sign in. Great.
Sorry, my bad.
Well,
Just trying to pull
it'd be
that
great.
mirror
Yeah, if
up
you can
real
pull
quick.
up that mirror board, it'd be great.
Yeah.
I'm also
That
pulling it
link
up
is
myself.
not even working.
I see a few folks in there. Let me know if it's not working.
Works fine.
It's working for you. Working
So yeah, I
for.
just want to give everybody
okay.
kind of a minute or two to read it for themselves, to get an idea of what's on there. And also pay attention as you're reading them, how much of them are kind of group goals, how many are individual goals, sort of where's the emphasis, just to get a sense of who we are as a group and what we want as a group, at least what was stated. Obviously, again, these are just things that came up in meetings, and it may not really indicate our priorities.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Perfect.
How do you put the timer on the mirror board?
I have a mirror handicap, don't ask me.
I know.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
I was just wondering. I was just.
I'm sorry, disability, that was politically incorrect.
I think we caught your meaning. I am also I'm also one of those folks that I love the time, and it would be cool to say, oh, like let's all read these for 2 minutes, and but hopefully folks are busy reading. I will say this about these statements. They basically are from our proposals, C4C materials, proposals, or in slideshows, or others. We haven't necessarily done a real brainstorming, but these are sort of extant or in just the materials, in things that we've produced as C4C that had something to do with mission, vision, objective, or goal, like to prepare educational materials of why Cardano, or to facilitate weekly, monthly, and special events. So you'll see that I'm listed as the author of them, but that's just means I pasted them into to the Miro board. Most of these were from the proposal writers from the funds that we've written proposals in, and I think it's been three funds that we've written proposals.
Okay, cool. So maybe just, does anybody, I guess I want to do one more thing before I go to the ideas. Hold on. And maybe can we just show everybody's faces, or as many people as we can. And just, I guess I want to say so there's 3 areas. One is around our community, one is around Cardano network, or that's 2, and 3 is around impact. And what I'd like everybody to just show with, again, this kind of raising their hand, is how important each one of those 3 is. And if they're all equally important, I guess that's okay, but I prefer people to kind of choose what you think is the main reason you're here and like be really higher up on that one. I'm trying to think. All right, so let's do it that way. Okay. So first of all, what's the main reason? 1, for the community, 2, for Cardano, because you're a big Cardano advocate, or 3, to make an impact in the world. So everybody just choose 1, 2, or 3, just to give an idea of what's the main thing that keeps you here. Yeah, no. I see people, not everybody. Okay, a lot of people are holding up a 3. Okay, and I just want to, I want to say, how important is that impact be climate? Is it like, it's got to be climate, or social is just as good? So how important is it that it be climate for those of you who chose climate? Okay, I'm glad to see that, because most of the projects were not climate projects here. And most of the notes were on the social area. So how important is the social aspect to you? So let's just do again. So social aspect, how important is that to you in this group? The community, building community, feeling of a community. Okay, great. And how important is the Cardano aspect to you in the community? Like that it's about Cardano. Okay. And how important is the impact area for you? Okay, cool. So one of the things that that when looking at the board and looking at the activities of the group and the accomplishments for the year, the things that people were most excited about and felt were the were the most impactful were actually the areas of the community. So, and there was a lot of applications for grants, not as many recipients of grants. I didn't see real reports of the impact that was being made by these grants either. And when I saw the presentations, there was very little discussion of actual outcomes. So there's a lot of good feelings. And so that's just something to say to ourselves, like, okay, as we're setting our goals, you know, maybe we want to make a shift, because it does seem people care about this. So I'm just going to need a minute just to open an ideas board and maybe discuss among yourselves something so that it's not only my voice. Just going to set up something so that we can brainstorm together.
I kind of like the idea that we share our own opinions, you know, like whether or not the whole community follows, you know, high impact, and that it's not so important to me, you know, when I recognize that I'm good within this zone, but myself personally, you know, this is one of my goals, and I'll come and I'll present and I'll show up with that as my ulterior agenda. But I'm good with going with what the community wants to do, as long as it's within that range. If all of a sudden we went from real impact to games, I'm out of here, because we've gone from real to virtual and it's not doing any real world stuff. But I'm happy to be on board working towards real impact, to be clear.
Yeah, and then like what exactly is real impact? And it's we're talking about like smart goals, which is when you create a goal, you make sure that it's actionable, that's something that you can do, and measurable, and so that you know what success looks like. And so on the other end of that is our like review of the projects. And it's curious to me, and here's the open question, as to why those things aren't so prevalent or really, focused on in when we review projects. Like, what is it that, like, what is it? It's like a culture. It's like it's not purpose driven. I guess it's data driven. Is it data driven? It's just like, okay, here's the data, and then we've got these, like, these are the data points, these are the needles that we want to move. You've heard that term, move the needle. Yeah, I'm just curious as to what brings that on. If it's lacking, is it truly lacking? And then how do we encourage that type of culture? Or is it something we want to encourage? Or,
I think that final word, culture, is important. I think goals are really important, and having SMART goals is great. But that's, for me, that's half the equation, because that focuses on output and what we accomplish. But there's a lot of input stuff for the leading indicators and things, and culture is a big one there. Like, what can we do day to day in our own mindset and community culture that will naturally lead to impact on the other side, just because we're changing ourselves in the way we do things and the way we think about things. And so that's also a goal of mine, is how do we structure our own culture and mindset in such a way that even if we achieve or don't achieve goals, we're still making impact, because we're changing the way we think and be in the world. That will naturally create like this magnified kind of capacity for us to do good out there.
Yeah.
I also wonder if there's ways that we can, like with our presentations and stuff, kind of like capture that theory of change that we're creating a little bit better. Like how we can, like, it's really hard to, I feel like, kind of show the theory of change and how you're making that impact. But I think that's something cool we could explore as well, like how we can capture that theory of change and how we really made that change and impact within the ecosystem.
Yeah, theory of change is a big topic in a lot of impact groups lately, and that might be worth just one of our community sessions, is to go over what that is and explain it, because I don't know if everybody knows or even has that kind of background knowledge. And that might be a really good starting point, just to have common language and ideation around that topic.
I think that's a great idea. We should book one of those sessions.
Miro board, put it down.
So I just want to say that these things are not unmeasurable. So, and I'll just give you an example. I went to a meeting once where I noticed that anytime a woman came up with an idea, she kind of apologized before she was going to speak. She's like, look, I don't know, this is just my opinion. No. She did that thing. And none of the men did it. And I noticed that almost always the woman had to repeat it again. And I noticed that sometimes a man would repeat that same idea because the woman wasn't listened to, not because he thought it was his own idea. And I noticed that any idea that the person who was the funder, or the person with the most political power, anytime he didn't like an idea, he just stepped over it, and people had to repeat ideas. Okay, so that's not unmeasurable. Like that, they don't listen to people, that women aren't treated equally. You could see it in behaviors. And if you're saying we changed inside, and I've been leading a women's group, and people come to it and they say, I didn't feel I had anywhere else to speak about this, or I thought I was over this. and I'm not, and it came out here. And when somebody says, you know, I've never said that to anybody before, or this is something I could say here, or I tried something this week that I never tried before, those are indicators of what Nori is saying. And if those are the ways that you want to measure impact, there are SMART goals that you could put in there. It's not like some nebulous thing. It feels nebulous, but it's, you know, the number of times people come back, the number of times people quit, which types of people come back, which types of people quit. There's a lot of rich information that I do think that there is this is an honest group, a very straightforward group, and I like you guys. And there's always a trade-off between being very focused on outcomes and being accepting. And so this group has, especially in the foundational stage, been very accepting, which is appropriate because we want more people to join. And maybe it has to get more focused, but not too much focus. So I've set a board. And I'm going to have us go in there, and it's going to be anonymous, so we won't know who put what on there. And I think you should be able to, I'm going to put this in here. And what I'd like people to do is I've put the sections up there, and I've separated climate and other impact, even though those is a little bit arbitrary. But I think that it's important for us to kind of point that out. And I'd like people to just put in SMART goals, either for them, you know, like for the group, I would say. And it could be something like X percentage of the projects get funded, which is a funding goal, right? It's not even really about impact. So be specific. What do you want? Are people able to access? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Okay, great. So for now, I'm going to give 8 minutes until the 40 mark, and put in all the ideas you've got. And then this afterwards, we'll be able to thumbs up different ones. Like we'll be able to mark the ones that are favorites. So just spill out anything you've got that would be an appropriate SMART goal for this group.
Want me
for
to
the
share?
year.
Want me to share the graphic with the SMART goals just so we can see that again? Or
Yeah, we could put that in. Yeah, if we put that here so that when you come back to this screen, you can like compare, is it SMART? And if you make a goal that's not that SMART, it's still okay. You'll get the same grade.
can you guys see that?
I see a
No.
black screen.
Oh, my bad. Is that better? No. Sorry, my bad. For some reason, when I use the second desktop, it doesn't work. How's that?
Okay, perfect.
A
Yeah.
little bit better.
And
Okay.
instead of my bad, just just say my blooper, because you're not a bad guy.
My what? Sorry, say
Blooper.
that again.
My blooper.
My blooper. I like
Whatever you
that.
want. Or my glitch. Or, yeah.
My
I
blooper.
don't like the bad thing. It's
I'm gonna use the blooper. I like that.
So have you got the board that Grace shared, Cole?
Yes, I
The link.
do. Maybe I'll add some myself and then I can share that right after.
I'm just going to comment on the ones that are there. They aren't measurable enough, right? Create materials. It's not how much materials, who they're for, who, you know, like what amount, you know, could be create 3 courses, constant flow, interested, like how are you going to measure? So please start to get a little bit more specific. These are great. These are exactly indicative of the way this group thinks. And we're gonna upgrade ourselves at this meeting.
Upgrade. Okay. So I'm gonna. Oh, okay. So basically, what I'm doing is taking one of those stickies from the Miro board and then bringing it into here, and then trying to use the SMART, you know, specific, measurable, actionable. What's the other one? And time, you know, etc. Specific.
it's interesting, Grace, because you had mentioned, correcting Cole when he says my bad. And it's this idea of SMART goals. I'm recognizing that I'm hung up on that because it's like I'm scared to put down a goal that doesn't sound smart. Is there an acronym that maybe could be stupid ideas or dumb ideas
I
or right?
love it.
Because it feels like it almost sets up the stage that you have to at least for myself, overthink these things and make sure that before I put them down, I look intelligent at least. So it's interesting. I'm just going through my feelings on this one.
That is interesting.
I'm loving this exercise, however. Realistic.
people want another minute or two. How are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I got 2 in there.
Cool. Let me just take a look and maybe give people another minute. Okay, so I'm just going to give, everybody gets, I'm going to say, everybody gets 5 check marks. Don't cheat. And just pick your favorite 5 and put a little plus sign on them. There's no way for me to know if you cheat or not, but don't put more than, just pick 5. It's just for fun, right?
And what are we
So
picking? What's our criteria
you're
for
just
picking?
upvoting your favorite, your 5 ones
favorites.
that you're like, yeah, your favorites.
Some that resonates with us that like, ooh, we like,
Yeah, you're
or
like, if I had
something.
to only pick 5 of these, right, then these are the 5 I would choose.
You do that by clicking on the sticky and hitting the little thumbs up.
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Do people need more time, or did we put our thumbs in? A little bit more time?
30 more seconds. I didn't get down to the last section here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to read them all.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this is really just a first exercise to check out how this might work. And you can see it's fun and, easy. You can do it with any team. You can give any amount of time. It's nice that it's anonymous, so you don't know who said what. Some of the goals definitely need sharpening. For example, I can see that we have no idea how much money we want to raise. Like, how much money did we raise last year? How many grants were funded? How many did we apply for? What percentage? So there's definitely some sharpening to do here. And it also, we could see as we were doing it at the beginning, it was hard for us to even think of like, oh, what do we mean by climate? Like, what would that goal even look like? It was easier for us to think off the top of our head what a community goal. We need to know, what does it mean on board? Like, there's not even a definition. We're going to onboard this and onboard that. We're going to promote this and promote that. If we promote a project, does it mean it's actually one of ours, or are we going to promote somebody else's? So there's still sharpening to do. But this is a really amazing outcome for just a 15-minute session that we did. And it's the start of a process. And I'm going to export that. And I don't know, I think I can export it as a PDF. And I'll just post it on the channel.
If you can export it as a spreadsheet, you can for sure, it'll just populate Miro board with some sticky notes, and we can add it to the Miro board that we're working on.
I see.
I'm curious how everyone felt doing that. Like, what was it like? Or were they familiar with the SMART goals?
I felt dumb. I said that right off the bat, but
Right.
you know, I felt this anxiety in me because this system is, I don't know what it is, but it feels like I'm not capable of doing it for some reason.
My fiance had a very similar response to the acronym earlier on. The term did kind of turn her off initially, and I had to figure out another way to kind of articulate that. So I like the idea of trying to find an acronym. It's a fun one, like dumb goals. But no, but it is a good exercise though, and I think it was helpful for me in trying to do a little bit more with the ideas that I have in my head, fleshing them out a little bit better though. So I think the exercise was worthwhile though.
Definitely.
I think that there's definitely a place to do dumb goals. I think there's a place to do wild brainstorming, right? This is actually like, I actually probably would want to start, I mean, just because of the time that we have, I did it this way. But there's definitely a real value in saying, put anything down. Like, you know, have a picnic with some people in my area, you know, actually meet 5 of the people who are here. You know, there's definitely a place for a much broader brainstorming session where you really spend 40 minutes just putting down the craziest ideas. And if there's no crazy idea, it's not done. Like, if you know, it has to have 10% ideas that are just like, really? And so there is a place for that type of brainstorming. I just feel like these, you know, I wanted to limit it to the 30 minutes that I had. But when I do full day sessions, yeah, if there isn't at least a few things that are completely off the wall, I know we didn't do a good job because we haven't explored all the areas. So there is a place for wild goals and not just SMART goals. And then you take the wild goals and you mess around with them. If you have you know, sticky notes, you can have wild goals and then you kind of categorize them, which is kind of what we did in the previous session, right? In the previous session, it was like, okay, what do we got? Let's categorize them. And so there's different processes, and I'm trying to walk you guys through different types of processes so that there's kind of a selection of processes to do in your groups.
It's interesting because the first challenge we put in was Door in Project Catalyst, in the safe and lively environment. He says, you got a crazy idea, put it in. And that's where the first challenge came from. And look what's happened as a result. So if we could promote that freedom to listen to your heart, because that's what's happening to me right now. My head is coming in and it's setting off all these triggers, and it's not really allowing my heart to speak, which if I go with just this head, I know something logical. Down the road, my heart's going to go, oh, you just followed the wrong path, honey, you know, because you haven't been listening to your heart. So I have to find that environment and that place where I can say, this is really what I believe. I felt a little bit nervous, you know, in the presentation today about bringing up this elephant in this room. You know, if we're not actually working towards things that are making life better for people because of our environment that's going on, I'm really worried. You know, if we go some other path, it worries me that I won't be involved, because that's so fundamental to my being here, is actually making a difference one way or another. And I believe we can do it through technology. And even in Project Catalyst, if we rethink the way we do this, you know, if we understand what Project Catalyst is and the funding, the idea is to build the Cardano blockchain. If we can come up with ideas that are specifically tech related that get funded, those are going to get funded. If we start putting in other stuff that's not related to the Cardano blockchain, like let's fund the purchase of a property and take funds away from the developing the Cardano blockchain, that's not going to be a popular, because then it's competition for these limited resources. So it's really this whole process, even though I don't feel like I've accomplished anything, it's really challenged my thinking on things, and really looking forward to what next fund will look like with this group. And yeah.
And that may look like, hey, we need other funding resources. We're not only going to be an expert in Catalyst, we're going to be an expert in something else.
What if we
Really?
created the funding models for purchasing those properties, but it's related to the Cardano blockchain? You know, whether it's a stake pool, what CNC is doing, Climate Neutral Cardano is doing with their project is like, yeah. And that the whole idea that they're doing is that it's we can duplicate it elsewhere. So, you know, we can create those things and actually use the best of everything. We don't have to create the impact solutions that are already out there measuring impact. Maybe there's some stuff that we can gather from. I don't know. I'm rambling now. Maybe I felt a little safer to speak my mind than when I was working in SMART goals, but.
Yeah, and I have intentionally not put fundraising as one of the goals, because that's a means to the end. It's like, oh, we want to do this. How much money do we need? What I think we should do, I mean, we don't have that much time, but I would really like for Cole, Newman, or Nori to share something about the talk that they heard last night.
Oh, yeah.
And I have the recording, and you can share it on the Catalyst group, but I would love for you to share something and how has it changed or shifted your thinking around this group? Or it was profound.
Yeah, it was Joe Brewer came to talk to the group, and he's doing some work in Colombia, and he was talking about he likes to talk for 2 straight hours almost on a variety of topics, and almost every 10 seconds there was some kind of mind-blowing concept. But the things that stood out to me, one of the things he talked about was human beings, when they're under stress and don't feel like they have all the resources they need or food on the table, their IQ physically goes down because your amygdala activates and it pulls all the cognition from your prefrontal cortex, and you're not as creative, not as capable of handling stuff. And my take was he was arguing that we need to like enable the planet with higher IQ, higher creativity, higher passion to solve these problems that we're going to be facing. And some of the things he was suggesting was like, we need to go back to creating commons. And that could be as simple as a community comes together, buys a plot of land and turns it into a commons. And then you jointly farm it, produce food, create shelter, and then people can come there. And as long as they're building in the community and contributing, they're fed, they're housed, they're clothed, all through the efforts of everybody there. And he was like, bringing up different ways of doing things that aren't our traditional capitalistic systems. And some of the terms he had, I think it was like sim something.
Semantic blindness, right?
And then also
syntropic,
yeah,
syntropic regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff of how they're doing that to allow things to grow and to, like he was saying, complexity and civilization. As civilization grows, complexity goes up, and our ability to handle complexity also goes up, but not as fast. And at some point, complexity gets so big that the civilization can no longer handle it, and it collapses. And every civilization to date has collapsed at some point, and we're in the midst of that collapse right now. And the only system that he knew of that has survived and been able to do complexity well and manage it for billions of years is nature itself. So he talked about we need to find ways to offload our societal complexities to nature so that we can focus on the smaller things. And part of that is becoming bioregional and focusing on bioregions, because that's human scope instead of thinking globally, which is way too big for anybody to hold that complexity. So all these great concepts. I was recorded, so if that's shareable, I would highly recommend that to people. Yeah.
And I'm glad that just your synopsis was recorded. Sorry to jump in. I'm always shouty.
No, go for it. You were there too.
But
that was a fabulous synopsis, and I do want to point out the connection between what Melanie said and Nori said about buying some land and sustainability. Like, if we can raise the money to buy some land that we live on, then money stops being as much of an issue, and that's a certain kind of sustainability that we don't think about. Yeah, go ahead, Newman.
Well, you had asked about how it changes.
Oh, sorry, Cole kept going off mute. He's trying to say something.
I was just gonna comment. But no, you're good. Go, Newman.
Well, just very briefly, holding a commons. I lost it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, how, like, kind of connected to Nori's idea, like, how if you have all that complexity and within the system, and if it gets more complex, like, the more complex the system is, like, the harder it falls, pretty much. So and we're like, our system's so complex, our global system, and how, like, we're really in the midst of probably one of the greatest falls of, like, a system itself. And then I just thought that idea was really cool as well. So yeah. What were you gonna say, Newman? My bad.
Well, yeah, no worries.
Or my bloopers. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, words are things. Words are things. One of the things about like creating a commons, and he talked about the landscape and walking the landscape and relating to these natural systems, and that it can teach us, and that there's like a specific way of relating in a deep way, in a non-superficial way, and being in community. And I think that yeah, there's just tons of value in his work, specifically that discussion, and bringing it into the C4C. I definitely think that it would be great to sort of jump into all those. One specific idea is that the meta crisis. It's like we're trying to figure out like what it is, like how to make an impact, but it's all of a one thing. It's part and parcel maybe fits here. It's like the that all of these things fit. Yeah, and I guess that's what complexity is. And then it's sort of like, it's not like, oh, if we could do this one thing, then it's the causal relationships have sort of broken down. Similar to like capitalism, it's just not transactional. It's just not if this then that. It's a complex food web interaction, and I strive to manage complexity by simplifying things and creating like a monoculture. That was beautiful. His analogy of just like taking out the invasive, the weeds, and then allowing the intelligence of nature to come in and build things up. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just watching the time. Sorry, we're right on the hour.
So yeah, I think we'll try.
Yeah,
Grace, you can wrap it up. My bad. Sorry.
No, go ahead, go.
I was just gonna say, yeah, we'll have to wrap it up soon. But thank you so much for putting on that amazing little session. I know that was quick, but I thought it was really valuable for the little bit amount of time we used. And yeah, any final words you have, please feel free to say, Sam.
Yeah, I just thought it's really great, and you can see why I kind of insisted that some of you do my workshop, because it frames this group in a particular way and that we can be more effective, and the time is perfect. It's perfect for planning the year. Yeah, and feel free to share that here, and anybody who wants to. It is 2 hours long, but very, very worthwhile conversation for anybody who's interested in climate and climate action that feels like it can really make an impact.
And
Well,
anyone who's interested in my bad.
No, not your bad.
My blooper, sorry. I need to get rid of
It's
that.
the big picture that feels overwhelming. We can break it down into smaller chunks that we can manage. That's great. So links to this recording, I hear about it just as a practical thing. If we could add those links in the description of the YouTube channel would be great. Yeah, we'll figure that one out after.
And I was just gonna say, if anyone wants to check out Grace's course, definitely check it out. It's been inspiring and life-changing for me. So definitely check that out. And thank you, Grace, for everything you give to C4C and for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
Where can I find links to your course, Grace?
Yeah, I'll send it. I'm not sure when the next
It's
time
in the meetup. It's in the description of, I think even in the Telegram chat, I've got more about Grace's work.
Yeah.
Priceless DAO, is that right?
I'm pulling it in.
It's not. It's
okay.
Yeah, the future.
Here you go.
It's called The Future Ain't What It Used to Be.
Thank you.
Okay.
What it used to be, my friend. And I'll probably run another one in the summer. I usually run them once a year, but there seems to be a lot of demand. So.
Perfect. Gail recommended I get in contact with you or get to know you. So this will be a great starting point. Thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming today. Have a great Wednesday. Have a good Catalyst Town Hall if you'll be there today. And yeah, have a lovely rest of your week.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Grace.
Bye. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Chris.
Have a good one, everybody.
All right, Cole, you'll have to we'll have to leave the
Awesome.
meeting for you to do the recording. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, yeah, that went well. Yeah. Have a great rest of your day and speak soon, guys.
Okay, bye.